your body grows bigger.
Your mind must flower.
It's great to learn.
Cause knowledge is power.
It's Schoolhouse Rockin', a chip off the block of your favorite Schoolhouse Rock.
Okay, the title of this video originally was Three Thoughts that are going to be separate from the songs, but it's turned into four because I remembered one. So let's start with the one that I remembered. And I don't know if anybody cares about this, but it's just really a discussion of the clean version versus the explicit version. Uh, just because, um, just because you can buy them, and I try, like even with hip hop and a lot of different kinds of music, I try to get the clean version, and it's just here's the weird thing about that: the words that are usually blocked out are up to the people who deem it clean or unclean. So while there are words bleeped out in the clean version, that doesn't necessarily mean that all the words that I don't want to hear are bleeped out. So to me, it's just by the explicit version, and also that there are occasions, a couple occasions, one in particular where the f bomb is used, and I think it's very important that it is used at that point. It being a hip hop musical, and also the attitude and sentiment that is being expressed at that point. So that accompanied with all other stuff. I don't know anymore. Clean versus explicit isn't that big of a deal because it's not really clean. It's just partially clean. If that makes sense or matters to anyone. Um, Now the other things that have to do with the musical itself um, is the casting, and one of the brilliant pieces of casting, as anyone will tell you, will be the double casting. Lafayette Jefferson, Mulligan Madison, Lawrence Phillip, Peggy, Mariah, and it's brilliant and it's great to see. But what I've kind of thought is that although are one actor playing two characters, and that there are other characters um, that maybe there's double casting too, but in a different way, where it's two actors playing a single character. And I don't know, it's because this is a half-baked idea, but Hamilton and Burr, and then Eliza and Angelica. And it's kind of like the split of these characters is kind of like Closing Doors. I don't know if you've seen that movie with uh, what's her name, Gwyneth Paltrow, where something happens, her life goes one way, and it goes another way in the movies. Watching these parallel lives, um, and so I kind of feel like that's the same thing that happens with Burr, because when you look at their story, they are so um, close, but there's just slight differences. That because of those slight differences, really, there's a line that talks about and wait for it, where Burr says that Hamilton has nothing to lose, but then he has a legacy to protect. Hamilton's going for a legacy because he was born without it, and Burr is protecting a legacy because he was born with it, and that really is the thing that sets their trajectory apart. And it's interesting to see that that's what happens until they meet back up at the end. Um, Even singing a similar line at in the last one, the world is white enough. And then the other one is Angelica and Eliza, because those are both two highly intelligent women, two very strong women, but it's a split in their lives that's by their birth, um, by their birth, which then allows Eliza to say, hey, look, there's Hamilton. I have that freedom to say that he is mine. Where Angelica, on the other hand, doesn't have the freedom, at least in the musical, to say, hey, this one's mine. Uh, so, I don't know. That's just an interesting thought that I had. Um, and then one of the other things I wanted to say, and all these are things that I will talk about again um, when we get to songs that are about them, I just, you know, these things have been going around in my head for so long, and these are just a couple that I just say I'm gonna get these up because I can't wait till we get to that song to talk about them. So that's what this is. Um, the second one I really want to talk about is the Code Duello. Um, just because I've heard a lot of people talk about how do two super intelligent men sit there and write letters back and forth and not avoid shooting at each other. Like, how do they just not say either a hey, look, I'm sorry, or hey, just walk away and say you're a jerk. It doesn't matter whether you apologize or not. Like, how do they not avoid shooting at each other? And I kind of got the idea that it's kind of like a compulsion, like an OCD compulsion, or like any ritual that you have to do, that you just do the ritual. This is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. And even though you know what the end is, you don't truly think about the consequences of the end. You only think about, okay, we have to get to this end. If he doesn't fulfill this part of the ritual, we keep going. And they just keep doing ritual. Um, until they get to the end. And because that is what they're caught up in, this cold duello is their ritual. It is their compulsion, especially when it comes to honor, that they have to do. They have to follow this ritual. And even though Hamilton says at one point, you know, that he's having trouble reconciling what this ritual does with um, what he believes. Even after his son dies, he has to do it because it is ritual. And once you're involved in ritual, you have to continue until you finish. And even if that means that's how he can plan and say, hey, when we get to this part of the ritual, this is what I'm going to do, instead of saying, hey, I'm not getting to this part of the ritual where my son lost his life, where I've avoided before. If I get to that, I'm just not going to do it. He can't say it. Even though he thinks it, he can't because he is caught up in the compulsion of that ritual. Okay? And then the other thing I want to say um, is kind of along the same vein. And not kind of, but it's just that basically it's about slavery. And when you are born into a system, no matter how wrong that system may be, it's hard to just say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I think that's what we see in a lot of these founding fathers, George Washington, even Thomas Jefferson. A lot of them saw slavery as the evil, but they were just like, okay, this is bad, but I don't know how to get out of it. That's why they say, okay, when I die, I'm going to free my slaves. Uh, because for them, they were born into a system. They don't know how to get out of the system. For us living today, it's easy to say, "Oh no, slavery is bad. I would never do it." That's because we were not ever born into slaves, and it's easy for me to say it because I would have been a slave, and I was very easy for me to say, "Hey, no, slavery is bad. I don't think we ever should have done it." But these are people who are born into a system where they were slaves and where slaves were bought and sold, and that was just a thing that happened. And it's not a thing that you think of. There are things that we do today that later people will say, "Hey, these things are wrong." I mean, as we look at global warming, and climate change, we look back at things we did in the past and thought, why did we do those things? Well, it's because that's the way things were done. And yes, now they're destroying the environment, but you know, we don't have that form of thinking. And yes, owning people is a totally different level. And I'm in no way excusing anything that they did, but I'm just saying it's easy to say that you should not do a thing when you were not born into a system that did those things. It's like, how do you solve this problem? Well, you have slaves. Okay, it's easier for us to say, no, you don't do that. But when everybody says that's how you solve the problem, then it becomes a lot more difficult to say, okay, I don't think that's the best way to solve the problem, but I don't really have any other alternatives. Even though you do, it's hard to see those alternatives. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but that is all I have for that. And maybe I'll talk about these some more. Maybe I won't. There's just some things I wanted to say. But that is all. Love and peace. It's time to take my medicine.
Face down in the gutter, won't admit defeat, though his clothes are soiled and black. He's a big, strong man with a child's mind. Don't you take his booze away. Hey! Been at it 4 years, drinking balls and beers. He's a hero to most teammates. Hey, hey, hey. But inside he cries back, swollen eyes. This man who sheds no tears. Now his wife and kids in a different zone as they worry about their dad who died. Hey, hey, hey. This arrogant fool makes every gonna be nothing but pride and kills. Hey, listen, no, he won't get so she's gonna be till before the daylight shines. But the thoughts and prayers of a million strong keep this man from dying. But hey, listen, no, he won't get so she's gonna be till before the daylight shines. But the thoughts and prayers of a million strong might keep this fool from dying. In the bar with every scar, but 1,000 bigger men. Every fights and loses, got all the bruises, will some of lose them big. This Irish fool's got a great big heart, he keeps climbing back into the ring. The low-down circles where he holds his court, this man who once was king. But he listen, no, he won't get so cheap, gonna be dead before the daylight time. Cause the thoughts and prayers of a million strong might keep this fool from dying. But he listen, no, we won't get so she's gonna be dead before the daylight shines. Cause the thoughts and prayers of a million strong might keep this fool from dying. This one goes out to the Boston Punch and Skins. A rowdy bunch they are.